recognized his religion. And after that, we have seen when this separate homeland movement started for Pakistan. And Jinnah was to some, I mean, I'm sorry, Gandhi was to some extent in favor of having a separate homeland for Pakistan Muslims. That's what RSS has a grudge, and they developed a sort of a grudge against uh, Gandhi, saying that if Gandhi would have taken a tough stand at that time, there would have been no Pakistan, because the most of the leadership, including Nehru, he was not also in. I mean, uh, to any. I mean, sort of by having any sort of this indication that we are going to give a separate land to Muslims. But Gandhi was sort of a little bit different, and he couldn't resist Jinnah's this separate homeland demand. So that's how Gandhi accepted Muslims and also their separate homeland, and couldn't resist Jinnah's demand. I think that's the main point these days when the history is being rewritten in India, particularly, and by the RSS. And these things have become sticking point, and it is becoming a point of contention for RSS, which it is raising in rallies, in seminars. This time that Gandhi has done a damage to to the this to India. Otherwise, it would have been a united India. There would not have been separate country. If Gandhi could have taken a stand, what Nehru or Patel or Azad and other leaders at that time took. So that's my point.
So Naima ji, like, can you like, give any examples where, like, you think Gandhi ji indicated that, he favored partitioned India rather than a united India, like, any examples that, you gave me example that you have read what Aisha Jalal has written, like, were there any instances where it was apparent that, Gandhiji supported the partition than having a united India? Anything comes to your mind?
I have read a lot about these things. I'm so sorry. I have forgotten this, and I didn't get time. I would have gone through these, books, and because I have written about this thing also in my dissertation, the partition theory. But there have been, one or two instances when Gandhi and Jinnah had a dialogue together about this when he started to have this separate homeland demand, and Gandhi wanted to convince him first that, it's not good for India. We are fighting jointly and all that. But 1940 resolution before that, he tried to convince him. But after that, when the resolution was passed, I think after that, Gandhi took a different stand. And he didn't give open, indication that I am in favor of. But the way he was treating Jinnah, and the way he was accommodating Jinnah, and the way he was listening to Jinnah and giving him space after 1940 resolution, I think most of the authors, they believe that Gandhi took a very soft stand in favor of Pakistan, in favor of Jinnah, which Nehru particularly didn't like it, and they had a little bit of, this conflict between them about this, the how Gandhi is treating, why he is giving so much of, so taking so much of soft stand, and
Yeah, so I don't think that's totally incorrect what Naima ji you just mentioned. There are, like, some instances where it is little evident that, he did not mind, like, the he did support Jinnah in some things. Also, like, during the negotiations of Congress and Muslim League, there were some ideas in which Gandhiji and Nehru and all these people were a little hesitant. They thought they were giving in too much in the negotiations, and they weren't too happy, like, uh, the Muslim majority areas, they believed that they were giving a lot of autonomy to them, but also they were at the same time they were giving a lot of power to those people in the undivided India, and also a lot of autonomy, which Jinnah wanted to keep it forever, and Nehru and Gandhi Ji were like not very happy with those negotiations. So we can always argue that who was right, who was wrong, but we can never say that exactly at any point that they were clearly favoring the partition. Of course, like everyone have like instances where which they point out to portray that it was otherwise. The same ideas when we talk about Jinnah, like some people say he was a very big, favor of a secular Pakistan. Some people argue no, he wanted a religious Pakistan, and no one can clearly prove otherwise, right? So I think we'll never know what was going on in their own minds, but there are a lot of instances which tell us a lot of things we can take out from their thinking. So I think Naimaji, let's talk to some other people too. Desinio, what do you have to say about Gandhi ji?
Yes, how are you guys? Like I said in the chat, I'm not too familiar with Gandhi ji and all that. I just had a theory. I wanted to see what do you guys think because you have much more knowledge about this. I was just thinking about it yesterday, and I agree with when she said the one of the biggest mistake was the partition. What do you think that about this idea that the British, wherever they used to rule, right? Once they were kicked out of that place, before they were kicked out, they always used to like divide that land and partition it in such a way that the people, when they leave, they just fight among themselves and they never get into power to be a challenge to the British. In Africa, in other places, wherever they left, or they were kicked out, they always ended up splitting those places into different countries or areas. And then once they left, the people over there would just fight with each other. So my idea was that when this partition thing was happening in at that time before 1947, maybe 1940s and stuff, the when the British saw that yes, eventually they will have to leave India, they were trying to see like how can we leave India in such a way that the India can never become a power and challenge them in the future. So they were looking for a way to do that, and they couldn't find anything because there was too much unity. The Indian Congress, Nehru, Jinnah, all these people were all part of one organization trying to get an independence. So they didn't see any way of breaking it until I think that there was an incident that happened where all the leadership of the Indian Congress Party got locked up in jail. And there was a vacuum of leadership at that time. Jinnah was not locked in jail. And during that vacuum, Jinnah's his prominence became a little bit more. He gave some speeches and all that. He became a little bit more popular. And his narrative about a separate Muslim state worked very well with the idea of British. It's like, wait a second, this guy wants to divide India into two pieces. He wants to make up a Muslim country, and India will be split if we go ahead with this idea. And I think the British were like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's support this guy. Let's push his agenda even more, that eventually, once we leave, India will be divided into Muslims and Hindus. And then, since they divided into two countries, they will never have the capacity to challenge us, and they'll probably fight with each other. And that's basically what happened in the end. That that's my theory, that they actually
No,
saw.
but Neo, like your theory is self contradictory in a way that the argument from where you begin itself proves itself wrong, right?